Woodforde's West Coast Wherry.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I have got another one from the Woodforde's Brewery from Norfolk, and this is their West Coast Wherry. Now their flagship beer is a bitter called Woodforde's Wherry, and I'm assuming what they've done is they've put a slight twist on that, put American hops in it, and called it West Coast Wherry. Now, in my opinion, that lacks a bit of imagination. But who am I to judge? As I always say, these are just opinions. You know, I don't run a business. This is obviously a decision they've made. And I got this from subscriber Mark. Cheers for that, mate. I'm smiling because he got me the Woodforde's Conquest Lager. Jesus, that was fucking awful stuff. It was really bad. And I'll give it a bad review, but I'll give him a mention. And this is the second one he got for my birthday. Him and his missus got me this for my birthday, so I'm reviewing this. And if this is bad, I'm gonna assume that he's getting rid of all his bad beer and giving it to me. I'm not, mate. I'm joking. But this is a beer that has been out, I think, since 2018. I think they brought a range of new beers that had an American twist on. They started using American hops because, of course, they're based in Norfolk and they are quite a traditional brewer. If you look at their core range, they do a lot of the bitters, milds, etc., etc. They do some seasonal beer as well. Now, as I say, the lager they did, that was their first lager. Oh, it looked good and it smelt good, but it tasted like shit. And I had to say it did as well, because there was no way around it. I mean, if somebody had gone out and bought it on the strength of my review and then tasted it and I'd given it a good review, I don't do that. If beers are bad, I will tell you. If they're good, I will tell you. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I don't care who sends me beer. If the beer's good, I will thank them and I will give the beer a good review. If it is shit, I will thank them and tell you the beer's shit. I'm under no obligation from anyone, so what you get is just my opinion. I'm a bit sort of wary about this. As I say, I think they're trying to branch out into the craft beer market, hence the reason it's in a can. It's got an American flag on it. You know, the marketing, you know, it's so shallow, if you like. But that's what brewers have got to do now. They're trying to compete with the craft brewers, and it's a crowded market, and brewers are doing what they can. And of course, with COVID now, pubs are being shut down, certainly in Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. It's only a matter of time now. It is October the 10th today, and we haven't been told that we've got to shut the pubs down, but it's coming. I'm sure it is. It has to be. If they're doing it in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, then, you know, why aren't they doing it in England? And even some places in Northern England, they've had to shut them down as well. So it's a complete fucking shit show, this COVID. It really has put a dampener on anything. Anyway, let's get away from that and let's concentrate on this beer. Right, West Coast Wherry, American Amber. When I hear American Amber, I think of the steam beer from the Anchor Brewery. Now that is a fantastic beer. When I see Woodforde's doing it, I think, what are you trying to do? And I've also seen a lot of people pick these up in B&M, you know, the bargain shop, for £1. So it's obviously not selling, and they have to get rid of it before it goes out of date. So, alarm bells are ringing. It's 4.5%. They're calling it an amber ale. It's got Amarillo and Cascade, so it's got an American twist to it. And that really is a about all I can tell you about it. It says, take a trip to the west coast of the USA with this fabulous sunshine beer. Amarillo and Cascade hops fused to create fresh and zesty flavours and crisp aromas. It's a sunshine brew, bringing new taste to savour. New tastes. Well, I'll be the judge of that. Let's get it open. Let's see what's going on. Right, Woodforde's, while I'm at it, is named after the clergyman, James Woodforde, who wrote a diary in the 18th century professing his love for beer, and that's where they nicked the name from. He lived in Norfolk, so he was a local boy. Speaking of Norfolk, this lot got taken over. This lot got taken over in 2016, and they are now the biggest brewery in Norfolk. So they're not independent. They were taken over by a group of investors. I don't know anything about these investors. I don't know who they are. But I don't know whether that's had an effect on the beer or not, because, to be honest, look at the state of that glass. That is disgusting. Well, there it is. It's definitely amber. It's quite carbonated. It's got a one finger head. What are we getting on the nose? That smells like cheap supermarket beer. There's caramel malt, but there's like a burnt butterscotch, if you can imagine that. And there's a faint citrus from them hops that's coming through, but that really isn't an inspiring aroma. And I'm wondering whether this is going to be a bit dodge. Anyway, the proof is in the tasting, so let's get it tasted. Cheers. I'm drinking this quite cold. It's coming straight out of the fridge. And I'm getting butterscotch and caramel, faint citrus, and quite a bitter finish, a spicy, bitter finish. Let me dive in again. The body is quite thin on this. Oh, it's pretty underwhelming, if you ask me. I don't think this beer knows what it wants to do. They're calling it a West Coast Wherry, American amber beer. But I'm struggling with this. I mean, as I say, I'm not really picking up any more flavours. Caramel, butterscotch, a little touch of citrus on there, vague flavours of pineapple, grapefruit, and when I say vague, I do mean vague. And then there's a bit of a spicy finish on the end. Now, they've not called it an IPA, thankfully. West Coast Wherry is something they've made up because of the Wherry name. They've called it an American amber beer, and it lacks the body of an amber beer. And they put wheat in their lager, the Conquest lager, and I didn't think it needed wheat in it. And they've not put wheat in this. And if ever a beer needed wheat, it was this one, to bulk out that body on it, because it's really thin and underwhelming. Ingredients: water, malted barley, hops and yeast. No wheat. And I wouldn't have said anything if they put wheat or oats in it, because they do that with New England and West Coasts as well. And I'm sure they do it with the amber bitter as well. or the amber ale, American amber ale. Really underwhelming. I really don't know why they've bothered. It actually tastes like a reasonable sort of golden type ale. No, I wouldn't say reasonable, I'd say average golden ale. But to be honest, I don't know why they've bothered, because the flavours are just, I don't know, they're out of balance. There's more malt and butterscotch on this. The citrus is nowhere to be seen. I mean, it is there, but it's really, really anonymous. And the vague bitterness on the finish, I'm just really underwhelmed. Now, as I said, people are picking these up in B&M, and they're picking them up for £1. And to be honest, I think that's all it's worth. You know, it reminds me of a bargain supermarket lager. No, completely anonymous. If beers had personalities, this would have the personality of Jeffrey Howe. Oh, I'm not impressed. So what's the verdict on Woodforde's West Coast Wherry? Why have you bothered? That's the only conclusion I can come to. It's one of the most uninspiring beers. Now, it's not the worst beer I've tried, don't get me wrong, it's not as spit out and throw down the sink, but it just makes you wonder why they've even bothered doing this. Because, you know, the packaging on there, the American flag, the West Coast Wherry, you know, it's a fucking cynical attempt to compete with the craft beer market. And then when you open it, you know, some people could be fooled into thinking, if you know, they're not too clued up on the beer scene and all that, they could be thinking, oh, it's some sort of, you know, West Coast IPA or whatever. But no, it's not. It's just, I'm actually feeling tired now. It's that uninspiring. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to give this, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. And if you see this for £1 in B&M, go for it. And you won't have lost too much money, but it's not worth more than that. Seriously. Sorry, Mark. I know it was a birthday present, and this is the second one that I've absolutely fucking panned, but I've just got to tell it as I find it. And this really isn't good. I just don't know why they've bothered. But yeah, Woodforde's are rapidly going down in my estimation. The Wherry, the Woodforde's Wherry, their flagship beer, it used to be really good. And then I remember I tried a bottle of it sort of early when I started doing the reviews. And I remember thinking, Christ, this isn't as good as I remember it. And everything I've had since from the Woodforde's Brewery is just, wow, it's bang average, to be honest, at best. And this is one of them, I'm afraid. So no, it's going to get a 3 out of 10. Not recommended. Well, it's recommended if you can get it for £1 at B&M. And remember, I'm drinking this shit, so you don't have to.